What if I told you that one of the biggest billionaires in entertainment didn't build her fortune from music? Not tours. Not album sales. Not streaming numbers. But strategy. Before she became a billionaire, she was just a girl from St. Michael, Barbados, facing financial struggles, family instability, and uncertainty about her future. Her name? Rihanna. The world knows her as a global superstar. But today, we're not just telling the story of a singer. We're uncovering the blueprint of a builder. Because Rihanna didn't just chase fame. She studied it. She mastered it. And then she leveraged it. From chart-topping hits to boardroom negotiations. From red carpets to retail shelves. From artist to architect of billion-dollar brands like Fenty Beauty. This is not a story about luck. It's about positioning. It's about reinvention. It's about ownership. And in this episode of Billionaire Backstories, you'll discover how a young girl from a small island turned global influence into generational wealth. Stay until the end, because the lessons from her journey might completely change how you see your own potential. This is the rise of Rihanna. And fame was just the beginning. Before the flashing lights. Before the red carpets. Before the billion-dollar headlines. There was a little girl growing up in St. Michael, Barbados. Her name was Robin Rihanna Fenty. She wasn't born into wealth. She wasn't raised in luxury. She grew up in a small island home, surrounded by beauty, but also by hardship. Her childhood wasn't easy. Her father struggled with addiction. Her home life was unstable. But sometimes pain creates resilience. Music became her escape. Not just entertainment, survival. At school, she wasn't the loudest voice. But when she sang, people listened. At just 15 years old, she formed a girl group with classmates. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect. But it was possibility. Then came a moment that would change everything. An American producer visiting Barbados heard her demo. He saw something different. Raw tone. Confidence beyond her age. Presence. Soon after, she auditioned for Jay-Z. And legend says he refused to let her leave the building until she signed a contract with Def Jam Recordings. At 16 years old, she left Barbados. Not knowing that one day, she wouldn't just be a star. She would become a billionaire. And fame? That would only be the beginning. The world met Rihanna in 2005 with Pon de Replay. She was vibrant. Caribbean. Fresh. But in the music industry, early success can come with invisible chains. Record labels build images. Stylists shape personas. Executives choose singles. For years, Rihanna released hit after hit. But she didn't always control the narrative. She was evolving rapidly, musically and personally. Yet the industry tried to define her. Pop princess. Island girl. Hit machine. But Rihanna was studying. Watching. Learning how contracts worked. Learning how royalties flowed. Learning where power truly lived. She understood something critical. Talent earns applause. Ownership earns wealth. And slowly, she began shifting. From performer to decision maker. From artist to strategist. Because she didn't want to just sing songs. She wanted equity. And that shift would change everything. Fame can trap you. Once the world labels you, it expects you to stay the same. But Rihanna refused to be predictable. Instead of protecting her early image, she shattered it. Each album became a reinvention. Each era, sharper. Bolder. More intentional. She wasn't just experimenting with sound. She was redefining identity. When Good Girl Gone Bad arrived, it wasn't just a title. It was a declaration. She cut her hair, changed her style, owned her sensuality, controlled her narrative. And the world noticed. But beneath the fashion statements and chart-topping singles, something deeper was happening. She was studying branding. She was watching how icons transition from momentary fame to cultural permanence. She realized something powerful. Relevance is rented. Influence is built. And ownership? That is earned. While the industry focused on her music numbers, she was building something invisible: leverage. Every red carpet appearance. Every magazine cover. Every risk. Was expanding her global brand. She wasn't trying to stay safe. She was building elasticity, the ability to evolve without losing audience trust. Because reinvention is not chaos. It is strategy. And Rihanna was no longer just reacting to the industry. She was positioning herself beyond it. The music made her famous. But the reinvention made her powerful. And soon, she would make her boldest move yet. By the time Rihanna dominated charts globally, she understood something most artists ignore. Music builds attention. But attention must be redirected. She began stepping into fashion more intentionally. Not as a celebrity ambassador, but as a creative force. She wasn't just wearing brands. She was influencing trends. Designers watched what she wore. Fans copied her effortlessly edgy style. She realized something critical. If the world already sees you as style, why not own it? In 2014, she became the creative director for Puma, and sales surged. Not because of ads, but because of authenticity. She wasn't pretending to love fashion. She lived it. But she also saw a gap. The beauty industry, worth billions, did not reflect real diversity. Shade ranges were limited. Campaigns lacked inclusion. Consumers were underserved. And Rihanna understood culture. She understood visibility. She understood the emotional power of representation. So instead of endorsing another brand, she built one. And when she partnered with LVMH, the empire behind Louis Vuitton and Dior, it wasn't for a perfume. It was for ownership. She was no longer chasing deals. She was negotiating power. The transition had begun. Pop star to brand architect. And the industry didn't see it coming. In 2017, Rihanna launched Fenty Beauty. And she didn't launch it quietly. She launched with 40 foundation shades. 40. At a time when most brands offered less than half. It wasn't just a product release. It was a cultural correction. For years, millions of consumers, especially women of color, were overlooked. Ignored. Undervalued. Rihanna saw the gap. And she filled it. Immediately, Fenty Beauty exploded. Stores sold out within days. Social media erupted. Makeup artists praised the formulation. But what made it powerful wasn't hype. It was intention. She didn't position Fenty as celebrity makeup. She positioned it as inclusive luxury. High quality. Accessible price point. Global mindset. She proved something revolutionary. Inclusion is profitable. Diversity is not charity. It is smart business. Within its first year, Fenty Beauty generated over $500 million in revenue. And suddenly, the music industry wasn't her primary income stream anymore. Ownership was. The artist had become a founder. And the founder was just getting started. After the explosive success of Fenty Beauty, most entrepreneurs would slow down. But Rihanna doesn't build trends. She builds systems. She turned her attention to another industry filled with exclusivity and unrealistic standards, lingerie. For decades, the narrative was narrow. One body type. One definition of beauty. One fantasy. So in 2018, she launched Savage X Fenty. Not just lingerie. A statement. The runway shows weren't traditional. They were diverse. Athletic. Curvy. Pregnant. Different ethnicities. Different identities. Real bodies. Real energy. And instead of exclusivity, she chose accessibility. Different price tiers. Different sizes. Different marketing tone. The message was clear. Confidence is not reserved for a select few. It is universal. Savage X Fenty disrupted a billion-dollar industry by doing something simple, listening to consumers. Representation wasn't a marketing gimmick. It was the foundation. And once again, Rihanna proved a pattern. Find the underserved. Create premium quality. Control the equity. This wasn't luck. It was pattern recognition. Music gave her fame. Beauty gave her leverage. Lingerie gave her dominance in lifestyle branding. And she was building an ecosystem. Not just companies. In 2019, Rihanna made history. She became the first black woman to lead a luxury fashion house under LVMH. The brand? Fenty, high fashion. This wasn't streetwear. This wasn't celebrity merchandise. This was Paris luxury. Runway. Tailoring. Couture positioning. It sent a powerful signal. She was not confined to pop culture. She belonged in legacy rooms. Even though the fashion house later paused operations, the symbolism mattered. She had crossed the invisible barrier. Luxury, once distant and gate-kept, now had her name on it. And that move reshaped perception. She was no longer viewed primarily as an entertainer who dabbled in business. She was an executive. A decision-maker. A power broker. And every partnership she entered was structured with ownership in mind. That is the difference between endorsement and empire. One pays you today. The other builds generational wealth. Rihanna wasn't chasing applause anymore. She was building permanence. In 2021, the headlines shifted. Not about a new album. Not about a tour. But about valuation. Forbes officially declared Rihanna a billionaire. Most of her wealth did not come from music. It came from ownership stakes. Primarily in Fenty Beauty. Think about that. The girl from Barbados. The teenager who left home at 16. The artist once shaped by record executives. Now a billionaire entrepreneur. But the most powerful part? She did it on her terms. No rushed albums. No forced tours. She stepped back from music and focused on equity. She chose long-term wealth over short-term noise. And she proved something that aspiring entrepreneurs must understand. Fame is a tool. Not the goal. Rihanna converted cultural relevance into capital. She leveraged influence into infrastructure. And she did it while maintaining authenticity. She didn't abandon who she was. She expanded it. That billionaire headline wasn't luck. It was strategy compounded over years. The world kept asking one question. Where is the new album? But Rihanna understood something rare. Timing matters. She wasn't rushing to satisfy noise. She was building quietly. Patience is often mistaken for inactivity. But behind the scenes, she was scaling operations. Negotiating expansions. Refining distribution. And protecting her brand equity. Patience allowed her to avoid burnout. Avoid overexposure. Avoid dilution. She understood seasons. There is a season to perform. And a season to build. Many artists lose momentum trying to stay constantly visible. Rihanna protected her mystique. And mystique increases value. The lesson? You don't have to respond to every demand. Strategic silence can increase power. Then came another evolution. Motherhood. Becoming a parent didn't slow her. It deepened her. Her public appearances became intentional. Her performances rare. But when she stepped on stage for the Super Bowl halftime show, it wasn't desperation. It was dominance. She performed on her timeline. Her terms. Her brand remained intact. Motherhood did not reduce her ambition. It refined her focus. Because true wealth is not just financial. It is time freedom. She built companies that operate without her constant presence. That is scale. And that is legacy thinking. Step 1, build global recognition. Step 2, study the gaps in billion-dollar industries. Step 3, partner with powerful infrastructure. Step 4, retain ownership. Step 5, prioritize inclusion as strategy. This was never accidental. Rihanna understood culture before corporations did. She moved where attention was underserved. And she built where loyalty was strongest. She didn't chase trends. She anticipated them. That is the difference between celebrity entrepreneur and visionary builder. Rihanna's journey teaches us something powerful. Fame alone does not build wealth. Ownership does. She showed us that. Sparkle's your environment does not define your ceiling. Sparkle's reinvention is a weapon, not a weakness. Sparkle's inclusion is not charity, it's smart business. Sparkle's patience is strategy. Sparkle's and equity is the ultimate goal. She didn't rush to please the noise. She built infrastructure. She didn't just endorse brands. She created them. She didn't allow the world to trap her inside one identity. She evolved. And that evolution turned influence into empire. From music stages to executive meetings. From global tours to global valuations. Rihanna proved that the most powerful move you can make is to own what you build. And here's the question for you. What influence do you currently have that you're not maximizing? What skill, talent, or visibility could become your leverage? Because if Rihanna's story proves anything, it's this. You don't need to start powerful. Move you can make is to own what you build. And here's the question for you. What influence do you currently have that you're not maximizing? What skill, talent, or visibility could become your leverage? Because if Rihanna's story proves anything, it's this. You don't need to start powerful. You just need to think beyond today. If this episode inspired you, if it shifted your mindset, if it made you see business differently, then you already know what to do. Subscribe to Billionaire Backstories. Because every week, we break down the real strategies behind the world's most powerful builders, so you don't just admire success. You understand it. And maybe, one day, you build your own. See you in the next episode.